Well, good evening. It's martini time on, what is today? Tuesday? Okay. My martini's a little smaller because I have to go pick up my daughter at the airport this evening. So I was standing here. See, what's inspiring me? What is inspiring? Where's my inspiration? See, I can't do this talk unless I have a germ, unless I have a frog voice. The frog, remember the little poem I quoted? A bodiless child full of life in the gloom, crying with a frog voice, what shall I be? What shall I be? So I can't do this talk unless I have a frog voice crying, what shall I be? What shall I be? And I can't get the frog voice until there is this germ, this seed, this seed idea that is suddenly kicking. You know, like an embryo kicks, like a woman's first pregnant. Oh, wait, so something's alive. Something's alive in me. What shall it be? Something's alive. What shall it be? Artists all know that. Artists get that. Something's alive. I've got an idea. And then whatever form, the poet, painter, dancer, musician, teacher, whatever they are, whatever form they take, it's that form that gives the idea a form, you know. And then the idea comes out, and it has its own life because it has a tension in it. It has the tensions of opposites. The artistic idea is a metaphor because it holds opposites together in a container, and it goes like that. See that energy. Metaphor is an energy creator. So I was looking at my little shelf of artifacts here from my life. My whole life is here. I've got my gurus down here in the bottom. I haven't talked about them yet. But everybody's here. It reminds me of the Life of Pi. Remember that movie? And Pi, as a young man, tried out all the major religions. But he didn't just study them like you would do in a comparative religious course. He went into the religion and became the religion. He did it on the inside. And then he went all the way through the religion, came out and found it was limiting. There was something more. Buddha did the same thing. When he left the pleasure palace and put on the robes of a monk and went to the forest to find the secret to he wanted to find the answer to the problem of suffering. Is there cessation from suffering? Is there an end to suffering? That was his quest. And he went through all of the yoga systems of the day. And even though Buddha was 500 years before Christ, there was already 1,000 years of Hindu yoga philosophy and search for this answer. The whole of Indian culture was the germ, the frog voice, crying for this answer. What is the end of suffering? What is liberation? Is there such a thing as freedom, liberation, the cessation of suffering? So Buddha went through all the different major religions and systems of his day. All the different gurus said, oh, you're the best, stay with me, and you can have all of my students. And he said something was lacking. So he kept going until finally he came to the Bodhi tree, half dead from starvation, asceticism, and physical starvation was the road then. And he said, I quit. I give it up. I'm just going to sit here until I see the answer. So he stuck his stake and he put a vow in the ground and sat on that vow. I'm not leaving until I know. I'm not leaving until I know, you see. So I was looking over my artifacts here, looking for a little inspiration, and I saw and I saw this, and I really love this. This is a very nice picture of the Last Supper, and it was sticking up in here with my Christian artifacts. Here's Jesus, and see, I've got Jesus, and I got Mary. They're all here, and I was thinking the Last Supper, and then I was thinking of the Avatar and the Last Shadow. The Last Supper, the Last Shadow. And if you remember the Avatar, Jake Sully, when he was caught in the dilemma of two realities that were incompatible, he was caught in the, where's my yin-yang? Doggone it. He was caught in the dilemma of two incompatible ways of being in the world. The Sky People and the Navat, Pandora. Two ways of being, two ways of knowing the world. And they were incompatible. So he was caught in the middle. Wow, wow, wow. Like the microphone stuck up against an amplifier. Wow, 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 wow. Back and forth, oscillating. You can't get out. Can't choose one or the other because they are both interrelated. They're both mutually dependent, but mutually antithetical to each other. See, you can't choose your way out of that. So there has to be some kind of a leap. The tension of the opposites, and we all know this in our personal life. If you ever had a nervous breakdown or a panic attack or a collapse where you have to get medicated, or you have to go see a therapist, or you go see a priest, or you get drunk, whatever. But we all experience these moments where there's no way to know your way out. There's no way to think your way out. There's no win. Everything you do is lose-lose. Double bind. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Marriages have many of these little moments where, oh, damn it, no matter what I do, I'm wrong. See, that's lose-lose. And that creates the wah tension of the pairs of opposites that neither one of which can be chosen. So if you can't choose yourself, if you can't choose a win, if all you can do is choose lose, you're going to go into depression or violence. Depression or violence, you see. Depression is an inner violence or an outward violence. You go shoot somebody or yourself, you see. So there's these. This moment of the last shadow requires, as Jake Sully said, an insane act. He jumped on the back of the last shadow. And of course, in the movie, if you remember, the last shadow was called the last shadow because if you see it, that's the last shadow you see. He's going to eat you. So, anyway, then I thought, well, the Last Supper. Now, let's look at this. Look at this metaphorically. You see, so the Last Supper is where Jesus, and there's a little picture of him. He's got the wine and he's got the wafer, and he's creating a metaphor because he knows he's going to go. So he's capturing his essence. He's capturing that frog voice. He's capturing that germ of what shall I be? What shall I be? He's capturing that in an art form, in a form. Just like the artist captures an inspiration for their art in some form of art. Picture, painting, writing, poet, drama, play, movie, whatever. Art contains a metaphor that contains and resolves a pair of incompatible opposites. And it holds these two antithetical forces together like a battery, holds negative and positive together, so you can use the light and the battery energy to run your to run your phone or something. See? So a battery is a good metaphor for a work of art that contains energy that's available to you if you know how to plug into the battery, if you know how to plug into the art. And in order to release in other words, the artist contains the light in a bottle, like take this lightning. There's a inspiration. There was a lightning storm this morning, and it's very inspirational. The lightning flash, you can see everything. How could you contain that? Would it be great if you could contain that seeing that sees everything? Now, by seeing everything, that means your seeing transcends the pairs of opposites, or two different ways of looking at the world. One way of looking at the world, you see everything from that view. But there is an opposite, antithetical view that sees everything from its view. So you got two, where's my damn thing? You've got two realities here. We talked about vertigo. The vertigo was caused by two realities, and he had to transcend them and get back to one reality. I don't want to digress. So this idea that this little yin-yang, which is a Taoist Zen symbol, contains the opposites. It's a metaphor. You can't see it here, but this is white, this is black. And that makes this a geometrical metaphor because it contains the opposite. This is a dynamic image. This means that you got to look at this as revolving. It's going like this. The black fish is chasing the white fish. The white fish is trying to eat the black fish. Each is trying to eat the other. And they're going around and around and around, and neither one can eat the other. It's the snake eating its own tail. This is a vortex. And each opposite contains the seed of the other, you see. So anyway, this is a very profound metaphor, and it's always revealing itself to me. So there again, this is the idea of a metaphor as art, that it keeps revealing to the viewer the transcendent light that the artist experienced when he conceived and made the art. In other words, the artist has captured in form the seed, the frog voice of what shall I be, this frog voice of unity consciousness that transcended the two antithetical ways of seeing the world. Because if we can't transcend it, we're schizophrenic, you see, or psychotic. If we don't know what's real, that's because there's two ways of viewing at the world, and each one of them looks good. So you can't choose between one or the other, and you have to choose. We have to choose one reality. We can't choose two realities unless you're wall-eyed. Like me, if you look at, when I look, well, you can't tell. One of my eyes drifts up on the left, and so I see two worlds when I look to the left. I remember very distinctly when I was a little boy, and I thought everybody saw double to the left. And one day my mother noticed that I had a look to the left, I had a walleye. But I thought everybody saw two. But but anyway, that's kind of like a metaphor too. The walleye means that you're seeing. And I noticed that when my eyes don't focus, I have to use one eye, and I discount the other one. Otherwise, you're seeing two realities, and you can't function. So so when you see two, you have to shut one eye, because everything has to be one. There's two, they're like that. You see, and you bump into walls. So this idea that there must be one, yet when there's two and you can't choose, what do? You see? Well, the art, the inspiration of the artist is the seeing that transcends the pair of opposites. He sees, and then he captures that art, that sight. He captures the sight. He captures the knowing in an art form. which you can call a metaphor, because the metaphor is a paradox. A metaphor would be this is a real person and real bread and real wine. This is not a real person, bread and wine. Now, which is it? It's physical. It's not physical. It's form. It's not. It's in history. It's not in history. That choose one, but you can't choose them because they're contained. So the Eucharist. So we're here. So Jesus is creating a metaphor, a living metaphor that became the Eucharist, the host in the Catholic Church. And this ritual, this Last Supper, is the Last Supper you're ever going to eat if you eat it like the artist created it. See? If you don't eat it like the artist created it, you don't get the Christ, and so you just have to keep repeating the ritual in hopes that the next time you repeat it, you get the light. You see? If you don't see the art the way the artist saw it, you have to come back and keep looking at it over and over again. You know what? I just don't get it. I just don't see it, you know. I know something's there, but I don't see it. So the same way with this, with the Eucharist, it's a container of tremendous energy, and it's like that, you see, and it's available for the person who can eat it in the same way Christ created it. So how did he create it? So what did he say? Well, he said, get some bread and some wine. He said, this is my body, this is my blood. Eat it. All right. But that's a metaphor. It's bread and blood. It is bread, or in a wafer, or it is a wafer. It is a wafer. It's form. It's this, and it's wine. It's that. It's not wine. It's not wine, and it's not blood. Now, which is it? Well, the way we have gotten around this problem and avoiding the Last Supper or the Last Shadow or the insane leap, the way we avoid that is to say it's a symbol. So it's a symbol. It represents Jesus in the past and his Last Supper. See, so that's not a metaphor. You see, it's choosing one and discarding the other. You see, so there's no power in a symbol. You know, if it's a symbol of somebody having dinner, you know, well, that's information. And you can walk around it and make it holy and bless it and all that, but it's still just information. It's historical information. It's a reference to something in the past. But something in the past has the battery, if you get a battery and plug it in, that's not in the past. That's now. That's now energy. So how do you make the Last Supper, the Eucharist, now energy? Well, there are two ways of being in religion. The most dominant one, the most conventional, orthodox way of religion is that of relationship. And so one gets in relationship with God, one gets in relationship with Jesus, and then the form of Jesus either could be Mary, or it could be the Christ, or it could be the Bible, or the ritual of the Mass, which in Catholicism becomes the center. And so then the religion creates a center, a form like the cross, statue of Mary, and then that center holds the people in the religion together, like the hub of a wheel holds the wheel together. All the spokes go to that center, you see. So a religion is in that form of religion creates a center in as something, and then makes that something, that center, a form like a cross or a holy rock or a mountain or a Buddha or a Shiva or something, becomes the center around which the whole religion moves. So if you remove that center, it's like lifting a rock off of an ant colony. And everybody goes blah, 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 all over the place, you see. So the center holds the religion together, so it becomes sacred. That's one way of being in the world. The relatively harder to find way, the other religious path, which is less traveled, is the transcendent way. So the transcendent way is the way where you transcend and contain the antithetical opposite ways of viewing in yourself. You transcend. So this is very difficult to explain because words fail in this. Transcendent means when you have two antithetical views that are incompatible, but you can't separate, like Siamese twins, you either destroy one or the other, or you transcend. And when you transcend, you discover a viewpoint which sees both of them as one, yet is not separate from them. It's not a new viewpoint. It's a transcendent viewpoint that sees the opposites as one, yet is not a third viewpoint. So the viewpoint is not a third viewpoint, which becomes a spiritual ego that says, oh, I know, I can see. It's too bad you don't, you see. I'm above everything now, you see. I'm enlightened. That's the third viewpoint, and that's not the transcendent view. So the transcendent view is mystical. The transcendent way is the discovery that happens spontaneously when the suffering of the incompatible opposites reaches a breaking point. So you get two tomcats out there and watch them. There are two compatible forces. Each one must be the one. And they will fight. And as neither one gives to the other, you can listen to the tension mount. Wah, wah, wow, wow. And at some point, they can't stand the tension. The tension will not be tolerated anymore. The energy of the tension reaches a tipping point, and they just go at each other. Fury. And this is like wars. It's like that. Two countries, they talk, the tension builds, Next thing you know, somebody lights a match and boom, they go at each other. You see. So this tension reaches a tipping point. And the tipping point is either going to go into violence or transcendence. If it goes into transcendence, it forces the creation of a new view which holds both the previous views together. In the dialectic of Hegel, it's called thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis, you see. Mother, father, female, male, rub them together, and you get a new view, a new being. Kind of a biological way of looking at it. But this is everywhere. This whole idea, this is the logic of life. This is how life moves, So I was looking at the Last Supper to close this up, and I realized that the Eucharist is a energy container So when you eat the Eucharist, how do you get through it as a portal? Well, you have to become the metaphor. You have to become the Christ. You have to, and this is again really tricky because the Christ is not something in this context. The Christ is a transcendental inspiration, a transcendental light, like the lightning, okay? You look outside at night and it's dark and shadows, you got this and that. A lightning flash goes off and you see everything. At night there's, oh my God, what's the shadow over there? Everything at night, you see, is yin-yang. Shadow, a little bit more light, mystery, what's in there, fear. You can't see everything. A flash of light, oh, I see everything, there's nobody there, I'm okay. So in this metaphorical sense, the Christ would be that light that you can light off yourself as a transcendent view that holds all the opposites and all the opposing realities of the mind, all the beliefs and opinions, the whole thing, the whole catastrophe. You see, the whole thing is one. There's no more conflict. There's no more friction. There's no more tension. There's no more violence in you. There are people out there fighting it out, but I mean in you, you have solved the enigma of consciousness and come to a transcendental view that it has no second. You know, the one without a second. You see, this goes back to the Bible. You know, the God Yahweh in the Bible is the one without a second. Well, so Christ is not a God that is one without a second, unless people are making him into that. From this mystical view, Christ is a light of awareness that is one without a second. That solves the conflict of your mind, not the world, your mind, you see. And this shifts everything from an internal view instead of an external. So the Last Supper then becomes your Last Supper, because if you eat this Last Supper, that's the end of it. That's the end of the conflict of competing and conflicting realities or beliefs or choices in our own mind. Your mind becomes whole, body and mind as one, with no second. So anyway, I hope this exploration was thoroughly confusing. And I'll see you in the morning at Zen Lodge.